Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Space. It's really, really big. And it's a lot of proverbial ground to cover when you're just one guy floating through it, trying to do good where you can. And today we're looking at two characters who have that very problem. One who's been doing it for a while, and one that's kinda new. I'm taking issue with Green Lantern's Silver Surfer. So let's see if this comic makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover could have been influenced by Michael Bay, as there are a bunch of explosions being set off in space while our title characters charge towards the reader, and they do not look happy. So, influenced by Zack Snyder as well, maybe? Seriously, though, it does have an exciting vibe, and it certainly grabs your attention. Written by Ron Mars with art by Daryl Banks, Terry Austin, Gloria Vasquez, and International House of Colors, we begin with Silver Surfer's narration as he observes the remains of a planet that's been destroyed. It's actually kind of eerie seeing the dead bodies float in the aftermath. Really cheery start, isn't it, folks? Though reminiscent of his former master Galactus, this doesn't seem to be his doing. When he finished eating a planet, he'd usually broadcast an obnoxious belch to the entire galaxy. He was the only one that thought it was funny, but he just wanted everyone to know. Surfer spots a stranger on a floating chunk of the former planet, and while it looks like he's wearing a cape, in an interesting use of misdirection, the cape actually belongs to an inhabitant who's caught in a headlock. And the stranger is actually Cyborg Superman. He fires an energy blast nearby, demanding to know who he is and if he's responsible for this destruction. A being with power enough to butcher a world should be known to me, yet he is wholly unfamiliar. I follow all the villains' social media feeds, and frequently check for updates on Evilpedia. I'm never out of the loop. Though apparently Hank Henshaw here has apparently decided to drop the Superman and just goes by Cyborg, and I can think of a certain Titan that wouldn't be too happy with that. Firing back, he implies accidentally ending up in a different universe, and that the planet tore itself apart because it couldn't handle the strain he placed on it trying to turn it into a new war world. Wow. Denying and admitting culpability in a horrific act in the same breath, then attacking whoever confronts him about it. How has he not made a go of it in politics? Turns out this ex-planet was one that Surfer had spared back in his days as Galactus' herald, and guilt from his actions of that time spiral into narration about his melancholy about his current existence, one battle or tragedy after another, and forever denied the pleasures of his mortal life. While he's fighting evil Cyborg here, of course, because when you're a brooding superhero, you have to multitask. We go to Kyle Rayner working on a commission that'll hopefully lighten his rent, when an explosion is set off, and it's time to be Green Lantern. This is fairly early in his career, so his narration sums up what he knows and is mostly sure of in regards to his ring. He didn't have any formal instruction, and he's been doing his best with the daunting task set before him. For example, a strange-looking axe-wielder that apparently knows who he is. This is Marvel's Terrax, and he was apparently told that GL is the only thing keeping him from conquering this universe. He flies through the cosmos fighting alien monsters and super-powerful warlords, then returns to Earth to his job as an artist, and probably still deals with people wanting him to draw stuff for free and customers that think it's okay to airbrush his signature off his hard work. Frankly, it's a wonder Kyle hasn't turned supervillain yet. Elsewhere, the Silver Surfer is coming around to the idea that his opponent really is from another reality, but, stopping his rampage kinda takes precedence. In that, he finds unexpected assistance when Psy-Soups is blasted by Hal Jordan, or as he was known at this time, Parallax.
That's the coolest name ever!
Kyle is still contending with an alien that controls the Earth itself, and seems as good as decapitated when he's stunned by a rock to the back of his head.
No one will be left to oppose me once you are dispatched.
This guy called Superman, maybe. Ever hear of him?
No.
Then someone is clearly pranking Terrax. This might actually be Punk'd Multiverse Edition. Mirroring what we just saw, once again a formidable baddie is felled by an attack from another visitor to this universe. Thanos. Back to the Marvelverse, Jordan is knocking Cyborg around until Captain Shiny intervenes, wanting to be certain this new player is in the right. The villain manages to escape, but Surfer figures he can easily be tracked until after he gets answers. 'Cause I guess he thinks he's got a tracker implanted in his neck like a pet dog or something? Jordan says he is from a different reality, the same one as his target, who destroyed his home, Coast City, and all its citizens. And we see Hal's reflection in Surfer's torso when he asks if that means Parallax is seeking justice, and is a hero.
Oh, I'm sorry. My hair looked messed up and I thought I saw a zit. What were you saying? Something about juicy gyros?
Jordan laments that at one time he was a Green Lantern, serving the Guardians and always doing what was right. But those days are over, the tragedy of Coast City changing him, leading him to questionable actions to try and make things right again. Double S can't help but feel parallels to his own past as we're taken back to New York City, where Terrax claims it was the purple people duster that goaded him into trying to conquer this new universe, and he attacks him for being tricked again. He proves little sport, with Thanos grabbing his weapon, stunning him, and transporting him to his proper reality. He brushes off his claims of being set up as a madman's rantings, which seems like fitting behavior as he properly introduces himself to Kyle.
You know, you look an awful lot like this other alien I know. Ever hear of Darkseid? Oh, here we go again.
Silver Surfer explains his backstory to Jordan, giving himself up as Galactus' herald to spare his homeworld. However, he aided in the destruction of other inhabited planets, and the fact that Big G tampered with his soul doesn't make him feel any less culpable, so he gave himself an endless path of redemption. Hal says that for all his own power, he's been unable to correct certain mistakes, but perhaps they can make things right with their powers combined.
Worst case scenario, we end up summoning Captain Planet. No big deal.
Terrax came through an interdimensional rift, and Thanos followed using his fancy chair, and there exists a threat to both realities. At least that's the story Kyle's just been told. He's uncertain if he should trust this stranger, until he names that threat, Hal Jordan. Speaking of, his proposal is very tempting to the Surfer, but he knows it's dangerous to rewrite reality, even with good intentions, and to do so to ease his conscience would be selfish. Parallax rationalizes that he hasn't acted for himself, but to save the millions lost in Coast City, and if they succeed, Norrin Rad could potentially save billions.
Trust me, comics have had worse retcons. Much worse retcons.
Thanos explains that matters of cosmic scale, even relating to other universes, are not beyond his notice, hence why he knows about Jordan, and feels he threatens both universes. He has a weapon capable of stopping Hal, but it requires power specifically from a Green Lantern ring. Hey man, boundaries! Kyle outright says he's not sure if he should believe this guy. You don't exactly have a trusting face.
Is that racist?
Yes.
A little bit.
No.
Mostly, it's the intense shadowy void where your eyeballs are supposed to be. That's usually a tip-off.
Thanos points out how he saved the Lantern from Terrax, and it should be apparent that he has both reality's best interest at heart. After all, what would I gain if all creation ceased to exist?
Yeah, I'm checking your social media, and I saw your relationship status with death itself. It's frequently marked as complicated. Got an explanation for that?
As Surfer seems convinced that a greater good would be served, both he and Kyle agree to help their respective strangers, each hoping they're doing the right thing. For starters, Surfer need only hold Hal's hand horizontally, which results in the latter sharing in the power cosmic. Norrin is stunned for a moment, and Hal seems genuinely concerned if he's okay, then shows him the miraculous return of the planet that evil Cyborg had previously destroyed. They fly down, seeing people and buildings intact, making the Surfer feel like his redemption is possible, and two universes' suffering can be eased without consequence. Then Hal gets the angry glowy eyes as he mentions someone not listening to him before, and now he can't be stopped.
I wouldn't read too far into that statement. There's not a single negative thing that can be interpreted from this panel. That twisted, snarly glare? Probably just an uncontrollable facial tic. I'm certain that right now we're dealing with the good version of evil Parallax Hal. Wait a minute.
Kyle is introduced to Thanos' weapon, which looks like a large satellite constructed on the former site of the planet Oa, which Raynor kinda had to destroy to stop Hal previously. The unintended result was a rift acting as a doorway to other realities, and radiating seemingly limitless ambient energy. Using the Green Lantern ring to harness that power, it will fuel Thanos' machine and bring about Hal's downfall. The two take their respective stations, and just as the artist considers reconsidering this, the process has begun. Parallax senses this disturbance in the force, I mean structure of both universes, and guides the way to the source. Silver Surfer, taking them as fast as he can manage, internally wonders if the power cosmic he's got left can handle the threat ahead, or if it was wise giving the majority of it to his new buddy.
The salt on the wound will be when he eventually discovers this does not count as a charitable donation, so he can't write it off on his taxes.
Kyle asks if this machine will drain or weaken Parallax, showing he doesn't want to outright kill him, but that hits Thanos' exposition button.
He starts monologuing.
His main squeeze, Death, has banished him from her kingdom, so he plans to use his device to create such complete annihilation that only Death's realm will remain, and he can take his allegedly rightful place at her side. He tested the rift by taking someone from Kyle's universe, we can easily assume he means Henshaw, and sent Terrax to test the lantern. Before the Mad Titan can do away with his unwitting pawn, Surfer and Parallax burst onto the scene. Norrin recognizes the purple dude in blue, but not the other guy. "My successor is Green Lantern. I thought he was a hero, but he's clearly in league with your Thanos."
Even though we can clearly see them in aggressive stances looking angrily towards each other, and there's no reason the newbie would threaten all of existence. There's no chance we're misinterpreting this situation. Let's start blowing things up!
The two title characters end up going head-to-head on a really cool-looking 2 pages, while their respective partners with polar opposite goals duke it out. With the sound effect Doom!
Doom!
Kyle would rather clarify his role in the situation, but Surfer isn't having it, even in his weakened state. Hal, displaying how he can recreate the universe in his own image, brings the planet Oa back, only for Thanos to immediately destroy it all over again.
You know those Minecraft players you hear about sometimes? The ones that go around busting up stuff other gamers work so hard to create in the game? That's Thanos in his downtime.
Hal defiantly counters by bringing back Coast City. In the vacuum of space? Does he really not think these things through? Anyway, Kyle overwhelms the Surfer with a wave of green construct water, giving a chance to show how overpowered their associates have become, and how Thanos tricked the Lantern into helping him. Norrin apologizes, but is too weak to be of much help, so Raynor must find a way to stop them. I've never used it that way before. You don't have a choice.
I think you're underestimating the power of a polite but strongly worded and anonymously signed letter.
While Hal and Thanos rumble in the streets of Coast City, an energy avatar of the Titan, I guess, destroys it like Oa. This, of course, sets Jordan off, intent on killing an opponent who'd like nothing better than to literally embrace death. Kyle and Surfer swoop in to separate the two, and Hal's mental imbalance is becoming much clearer. As Thanos charges, refusing to be denied now that he has his ultimate power, Kyle has seen that he really does wield the most powerful weapon in the universe, if it wasn't certain before, and if it can destroy universes, it can save them. Previously considering his ring as a tool, Raynor seems to fully grasp the endless possibility, with himself as his only limitation. Focusing with all his willpower, he begins sapping the energy both his adversaries had taken. His narration says, "I can do this," but his face says, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." He succeeds, and sees why Hal is so power-hungry, but can't contain so much of it for very long. Since his body is a cosmic battery and thus he stands a better chance at surviving, Surfer convinces Kyle to give the power over to him.
Plus, some of that power is his anyway, and it's not like he can just connect to a wall outlet to recharge. Wait, he's silver, maybe he can.
The influx of power is pretty intense for Norn as well, even making him bulkier like he's Super Vegeta. So Super Saiyan Super Silver Surfer? Anyway, while the power boils within him, he comes to understand that his redemption won't occur by rewriting the past, but securing the future, and if that means his death to preserve two realities, he'll gladly make that call. He returns to normal, having gotten the energy under control, and Kyle helps with some green construct supermodels. Well, he's more tasteful than some artists. But moving on, Surfer says he thought he found a kindred spirit in Hal Jordan, but now thinks he's got more in common with Raynor. He's a hero, a savior, to which the Lantern can only thank him and say he's trying. The dimensional rift begins closing, and the universes are righting themselves by drawing in their native beings. Before it can seal completely, or he can give his name, the Surfer follows Thanos back to his home reality, telling the Lantern that perhaps they'll meet again.
Meet again? Sure, that's likely. Maybe we'll have to fight each other as part of a big interdimensional wrestling match between heroes for the fate of one universe because two crystal brothers can't get along. What a ludicrous idea.
Kyle is back in New York, with Hal gone just like his reconstructed Coast City and any trace of the battle with Thanos. If nothing else, Raynor has a better understanding of what he's capable of, and that should make him a better hero. Just as he's glad the ordeal is over, the comic ends with an unassuming cardboard box that begins overflowing with energy.
That was Green Lantern's Silver Surfer. I rather liked it, and in several ways I thought it was one of the more unique crossovers.
Instead of one villain from each universe teaming up, which is what we mostly get, we have separate entities with opposing endgames to boot that each coerce a hero to their cause. Hal genuinely believes what he's doing is right, and has so rationalized it to himself he can convince someone like the Silver Surfer who's struggling with his own misdeeds and yearning to make amends.
I never personally read Hal's Fall from Grace, but I can understand why fans of the character didn't like it. You know that I can relate to when someone comes along and twists your favorite character into a subtractive, reductive shadow of their former selves. That being said, they at least tried to make him somewhat understandable, that he suffered a huge loss and it eventually broke him. I'm not saying it's perfect, but for the sake of this story at the very least, he doesn't come off as some mustache-twirling stereotype of a villain.
Thanos, meanwhile, just outright tricked Kyle. Granted, with some persuasive language, but he was more knowingly deceptive. The Lantern's fight with the Surfer was a little brief, and they were both drained, but this was never about them facing off, rather how their naivete misled them. They both had personal arcs, Norrin trying to forge ahead and do as much good as he can, and Raynor fully realizing the scope of his ring's potential, as well as his own. He didn't so much doubt himself or the power he wields, he just hadn't fully understood it. You could say there are ways to improve on that portion of the story, but I think it was done well for the story that we got. And unless I missed something, I think the story forgot about Evilborg here. I guess we just assume he was pulled through the rift. I liked the art, nothing too ostentatious or done for vanity's sake, but neither sloppy, slapdash, or baffling. There are a couple of two-page spreads or pages that are largely of one single scene, but I think they help to emphasize the large scale of threat that we're dealing with. Also, I knew this was set before the big Versus crossover, written by Mars as well, but I didn't know there was a teaser for it at the end here. Nice touch in retrospect.
I've never been a devotee of either character's solo title, but I can definitely say this one's worth checking out. And I can't really find much to overly complain about. Don't know how Surfer learned Kyle's name at the end, but it's hardly a deal breaker. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.